everyone. Thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop here on YouTube. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Alright, so today we're going to talk about The City Below the Cloud by T.S. Galindo. As you can see, this is a very short book. It is no more than 150 pages, I believe. But it took me a while to get through this book. It's just very weird. Very weird. I don't think that the author thought out just how he wanted to plot his story. I think he was just kind of going with the flow. This is a self-published book. I think if it had had some professional editing, it probably would have been better. It could have even been longer. And I think it being longer probably would have served this story better. So I'm just going to read the back blurb to you, okay? Few things endure, like fear and fungus. In a city forever shrouded in darkness, Callan braves the heights of the lichen-covered buildings to scrub the invading fungi from the walls. What will be discovered when the secrets of the city below the clouds come for them? A dystopian, cyberpunk adventure that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Interesting premise. When I got this in the mail, it was an unsolicited request. They just sent it to me, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not opposed to self-published authors just sending me their stuff. Admittedly, it does get a little annoying sometimes because my to-read pile of ARCs is already like this tall. So I only read the ones that are interesting to me. And this blurb, it was interesting to me. I'm like, okay. And I got this around the same time as Cyberpunk 2077 coming out. So I was like, okay, I can do with some more Cyberpunk in my life. Let's do this thing, right? It was weird. But it did have a strong opening. I will say this. It had a very strong opening for what it's worth. It starts with chapter 1, The Tooth. First line, I love the first line. Where are my dreams? I think that's a very strong opening segue into the story. I think the author clearly had an idea. As you're reading the story, you get to the end, you're like, oh, okay, so this is what the story was getting at. But the journey there is really weird. You're expecting the fungi, you're expecting the mushrooms. But what happens in the story, and spoiler alert, the mushrooms are sentient. And I thought that was cool. I did think that was a very cool element for the storytelling. I was like, ooh, they're sentient. I just wanted more elaboration on this world because it's very rough. It's very... Not just the world itself is rough. The writing is a little bit rough. It needed a little bit more cohesion from beginning to end. And I've already said that because the story is switching perspectives between Callan and her sister Set. And I didn't understand her sister Set's perspective at all. I understood it from the author's point of view. He is trying to highlight the injustices of this world. I mean, there's a scene, she's with her friends. Her friend's heart implant just short-circuits and he dies. And they all mourn for about a second. And then they take his body to the depository to get whatever money they can for his body. So her segment is more to highlight more of the society. You don't have time to mourn the dead. It's, okay, what can you get for their body parts? Pretty much. That's how you survive. And you get credits for oxygen tanks, clean air pumped into your apartment, into your housing, into your suits for work. It's all about just trying to survive and trying to live. So I do like the underlying message of that because by the end, you understand, oh, the rich, they live above the clouds. Oxygen is clean. They're living it up. So it's clearly a story about upper class versus lower class. However, the lower class have no idea that the upper class is even living there. So the novel is pretty much a precipice. You know, you're on that precipice to another series, quite possibly. It's a good opening to a series, kind of. Again, it does lack cohesion throughout the story. You're kind of unsure what direction the story is going for. You have Callan, and she's losing her teeth. She's she's losing her teeth. She's doesn't have any dreams, and then she discovers she's not really Callan at all. She was created by the mushrooms to take down the guy above the clouds who wants to get rid of the mushrooms. Now, the mushrooms are actually beneficial to society because they do help clean out a lot of the pollution. So in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, well, why do we want to get rid of all the mushrooms? We do want to get them out of the vents so that they're not like suffocating everyone. And the mushrooms do have a toxin that if you get infected with them, you kind of start spores on your body. I know I'm lagging a lot in this video. I'm sorry about that. It's just trying to form into words. Like, my notes are right here, and I'm just still trying to form into words because it's a weird book. I still can't wrap my head around it. You know, I've already recorded the podcast, I've already written the review, I'm looking at my notes, and I'm still trying hard to wrap my head around it. The mushrooms are both bad and good for society, and they're sentient, and they want to get rid of the upper class, and the lower class have no idea the upper class even exists. And I didn't really see a whole lot of cyberpunk elements in there. Maybe I was just thinking too much of the game when I was reading this book. I was expecting a little bit more like, yeah, the game kind of elements in this, but, you know, that wasn't the case. Sorry, my nose is like starting to run as well, so I'm trying to hurry this up before I just sneeze. But again, you know, it just lacked cohesion. It has a lot of strong elements to it. You know, this study on, you know, lower class versus upper class, this whole idea of what you do to survive. It's a good commentary on where our society is currently headed in a way. It does have some cool sci-fi elements to it. It just lacked cohesion because I feel like Set's perspective could have been segued or transitioned into much better than it actually was. And that's what really brought it down for me. I thought Callan's perspective was good for the story. Definitely good. But I think if we could have incorporated Set's point of view within Callan's, I think that way the story would have flowed better. It would have been more cohesive. And I think, again, that the story would have been a little bit more, I think it would have been benefited if it were longer. It needed better editing at the end of the day because there are lots of ideas in this story, but they needed to be solidified. It's like he touches on an idea and then we're going to another idea. It's a lot that's going on. So I think, you know, if this is a start to a full-fledged series that he wants to do, it's an okay start to a series, but it just lacks direction because you're wondering as you're reading it, you're like, okay, where are you going with this? What's happening here? Because it lacks that cohesion and it lacks that direction, you're unable to really lose yourself in the story. And again, it took me a while to read this book. Probably like a week. I picked this book. I'm like, oh, I can read this in a day. Yeah, I just read 2 books that are about 500 pages long. I read those 2 books in a day because they were good. One of them was Unchosen. You can already check out my review for that one. And the other one is The Initial Insult, review to come. I promise. But you see what I'm saying? If a book this skinny takes me like a week to read because I'm not really interested, that says a problem. And it's not the ideas, again, that are the problem. It is the editing. It needed better editing. I think part of the problem is because it was self-published, and I self-publish all the time, so this isn't against self-publishers. The thing is, he had his wife edit the book. What are her credentials for that? You know, is she a professional? I think you have to get someone who is not so close to you to edit the book, because otherwise they're probably going to be nice to you. You need someone who's going to be blunt with you, which is why I don't get my mom to edit my books, because she would be way too blunt with me, and I don't think I could handle that kind of criticism. So I just get another fellow classmate I went to with Emerson. I'm like, here, help me edit my book. And you know, it's professional. It's not so harsh. My mom can be really harsh, but only because she expects the best of me. But damn, I just kind of just don't ask her to read my stuff. I just don't. But anyway, you know, it's an okay story. It wasn't the greatest. Again, lacks cohesion, but it does have a lot of interesting ideas that I do think warrant reading this book. It has good ideas to it. It has a really nice plot base. Callan, you could probably skip most of Set's perspective because they're recapped in Callan's perspective. So you can probably skip them. And I think if you do that, you might enjoy this book a little bit more than I did. So anyway, this is The City Below the Cloud by T.S. Galindo. It's a novella, no more than 150 pages. I would say at least give it a shot. I will include a link in the description below if you want to go ahead and do that. If not, you can check it out from your local library, or if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, then there's an ebook copy on Kindle Unlimited. I will include links to that as well to help all of y'all save a little bit money if you don't want to purchase that. Please remember to support the author by leaving your own review and spreading the word. That's the best way you can support an author if you're not going to purchase their work. And on that note, I hope you all will continue to support me by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing it with all your book-loving friends. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.